Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the GMAT GRE workshop session 2 for the verbal section. And today we would be looking at the analytical writing section of the GMAT GRE test. And we would be getting ourselves familiar with this section. What kind of essays are we expected to write? And what exactly is it that we need to do on the day of the test when it comes to doing the GMAT GRE essay? Because obviously all of us are given challenges when it comes to writing. It's not an easy task, so we need to get familiarized with what kind of instructions are going to be there and what exactly is the analytical writing section all about, the effective strategies that we could perhaps use on the day of the test to overcome difficulties, the challenges that are there. So let's look at the agenda for our lesson first. So first of all, GMAT GRE essay section comparison. We would be comparing the two sections of the GMAT GRE analytical writing, and then cracking analyze and argument task. Now, this is one of the tasks that is common to both GMAT GRE tests. So we would be looking at this first, and then GRE additional essay analyze an issue overview and tips. This is an additional task that is there in the GRE test, and this is about analyzing an issue. And we would be looking at how exactly are we supposed to attempt this section and what are the tips and strategies that we could follow. Then in the end, I would want to discuss the sample student response, which needs to be discussed with you, because I would really feel the need at that point of time when we are done with the tips and strategies to actually read out a perfect student response in result of an essay that we will come across. So we will be looking at that, the prompt, and then we would be reading out that response. So let's just dig in deeper and find out what exactly is the analytical writing section for GMAT GRE all about. Number of writing sections. For GMAT, we have one section, and for GRE, we have one section as well. Number of essay prompts. For GMAT, we have one essay prompt, and for GRE, we have two. So yes, there is a bigger challenge when it comes to GRE analytical writing essay section. Now, the time limit. We have 30 minutes because obviously there is one section, one essay prompt. So obviously there are 30 minutes for the GMAT essay analyzing an argument. For the GRE, we have two 30-minute sections, the analyze an argument and then the analyze an issue task. What are the main topics tested? Analysis of an argument for GMAT, and then in analyzing an argument in GRE also. Now, this is something that is common to both, whereas analyzing an issue is a completely different way of writing, and we would be finding out how is it different from analyzing an argument, and we would be looking at it. The score ranges between 0 to 6 for both of them. Before I begin and I go further, I would like to explain to all of you that in an analysis of the given argument, you are expected to discuss how well reasoned you find a given argument. You analyze the line of reasoning, you find out the argument's gist, and you actually critique on it. If you actually think that it's not credible enough, it's flawed, or if you believe that it's really believable and it makes sense, then you need to prove it with the help of reasoning, supporting evidence, details, and you need to plan your response, evaluate the argument. It has to be fully developed, it has to be organized, coherent sentences, the grammatical errors should not be there, and it has to be structured, well-structured essay. And you have to, you can also do a critique of that argument, so you have to choose your side. Your ability to think critically, it is going to be tested over here greatly. Somebody asked me in the last session that how can we improve our critical thinking skills? I really like that question because I feel that when it comes to critical thinking, it is applicable in so many areas of life as well, not just the test itself. You can think critically just to question an assumption also. When you think that, okay, what is the other side that we should be looking at? You should be thinking critically about an assumption that you read in the prompt, or maybe you might want to reason your logic. If you think that this is something that you do not want to believe in, reason your logic, and maybe sometimes diversify your thoughts. Think in a different way to escape your usual thinking routine and, gain richer insights. So this is something that I would want to tell you people, that when it comes to analysis of an argument, you have to be a critical thinker. And the topics could be related to business. Specific knowledge of the topic is not required. However, if you obviously, if you want to write down something in the capacity of a writer, you want to add beauty to your writing, then you can definitely take your chance and give it your best. One more thing, that you should be taking your time to reread your response after you're done, because this is something that's very important. Although we have a 30-minute essay and we might not have a lot of time to reread it and to make changes to it or revise it. However, it's important because sometimes you come across things that need to be fixed, maybe minor errors that you have you might want to change, because in a rush of time you do tend to make mistakes. So please keep in mind that you might be you should be reading actually the prompt, the essay, once you have written it. Moving on, sample, analyze an argument prompt. Now this is what an argument prompt looks like when you have to analyze an argument. I'm just going to read it out so that you guys could have an overview of what the analyze an argument prompt looks like, and you could get yourselves acquainted with it probably. All right. Most companies would agree that as the risk of physical injury occurring on the job increases, the wage paid to employees should also increase. Hence, it makes financial sense for employers to make the workplace safer. They could thus reduce their payroll expenses and save money. Discuss how well reasoned you find this argument. In your discussion, be sure to analyze the line of reasoning and the use of evidence in the argument. For example, you may need to consider what questionable assumptions underlie the thinking and what alternative explanations or counterexamples might weaken the conclusion. So you are analyzing throughout the process of reading the description that's given in the prompt. You are looking at it as a critical thinker from a viewpoint of a person, a reader who is actually, just going to write down his analysis about what exactly does he think is, making the information credible or not credible. And if whatever he thinks, whatever his perspective is, he needs to provide supporting details related to that. You can provide counter examples if you need to consider what questionable assumptions lie, and you have to analyze yourself as someone who is going to critique the entire argument. You can also discuss what sort of evidence would strengthen or refute the argument. If you think that maybe the author could have added something to this argument to make it more credible, what exactly is that? What exactly is it that could have made the claim stronger? So you are more than welcome to add that information. Okay, I'll read further. You can also discuss what sort of evidence would strengthen or refute the argument, what changes in the argument would make it more logically sound, and what, if anything, would help you better evaluate its conclusion, because you are evaluating the argument. So obviously you have to look for the evidence, and you can also discuss what sort of evidence is lacking in this particular argument and might have strengthened it if it was there. And how could it have been made more logically sound, more believable? So, this is how you evaluate it. And towards the conclusion, you are just, done with expressing your thoughts about how this piece of argument could have been a bit more credible for you to believe in what the author is saying. Moving on, we have analytical writing, analyze an argument. So let's look at the first point. Now, these are just some points that I would want you to note down, because they are going to give you a brief overview about the analyze and argument section. So we have discussed the prompt. Now, what more to it? Let's find out. In both GMAT and GRE, you will be given an argument and you must evaluate its strengths and weaknesses in an essay. Considering that GMAT and GRE, both of them have the analyze an argument section. So in this case, you are given an argument in both the tests and you have to evaluate the strengths, the weaknesses, because you are the person who's deciding at the end of the day if it was something that deserves appreciation, or if it was something that needs to be improved in certain ways. Number 2, you aren't giving your own opinion on the issue. You are instead discussing the given opinion, what its shortcomings are, and how it could be improved. This is of critical importance that you remember that your opinion is not asked. You're not supposed to tell, I believe in this, I think this is not believable, or I feel that this is not explained well. No, this is not what we are looking for. Or I would rather say, don't quote these kind of sentences because they suggest that you are giving your own personal opinion. So a big no to them. You're not giving your personal opinion. Considering what is the argument, you have to stick to its context and discuss its shortcomings, because the prompt itself would have some details that you could perhaps discuss in detail in your essay and explain if those details are sufficient or if those details make sense to the reader who's reading that particular argument. Okay. And number 3, the analyze an argument essay in GRE is similar to the essay for the GMAT. Here you'll also have to critique a given argument. Yes. So it's similar to the GRE essay, as I've already mentioned. You will have to critique the given argument and you will have to make sure that you are towards the conclusion, towards the end, you are very clear to the examiner who's going to check your essay, or to the machine algorithm that's going to score your essay, that what exactly is it that you believe in? And if so, why do you believe in that? So emphasizing on this particular thing, because I would want you guys to remember that your opinion is not required. It's basically the prompt, the details of the argument that you need to focus on. Sometimes a little piece, a paragraph has a lot of information. So you have to, read between the lines to find out little details. Let's move on and see what is there for us. Okay, cracking the analyze an argument task. Now, like I said, I believe in strategies that are given by experienced candidates in the past who have gone through these times when they are preparing for their GRE, GMAT tests, and they come across challenges and they form their own opinions. Their own experiences are, sufficient to teach them a lesson, or maybe it's something that they did that helped them score well. So they always want to share those tips and strategies, and which is why I would also like to share the tips and strategies with you, which are going to be very helpful when you're going to be sitting for the essay section of the GMAT and GRE. So this analyze an argument task that is common to both GMAT and GRE, I'm going to be discussing these tips. So irrespective of what test you're going to take, the tips that I'm going to discuss are for both GMAT and GRE potential candidates. So please make sure you make note of these when I discuss them. So let's look at the first tip. Tip number 1, follow the directions. Directions, they actually mean the basic instructions that are there, and the analytical writing section specifically asks you to critique an argument on its strengths and weaknesses. I've already discussed this, that you need to be a critical thinker to evaluate an argument in the best way possible. You are the judge. You are the person who decides what is it that you feel gives it credence, or what is it that you think makes the argument flawed or weak. Analytical writing graders aren't looking for your opinion about the topic discussed in the prompt. So your opinion, once again, like I've already mentioned, it's not asked for. Rather, they are looking at how well you critically analyze the given arguments. So basically, stick to what the prompt tells you, stick to the main topic, the argument that's mentioned, and explain it, elaborate on it. So that's the target. So here is a sample prompt. We have already read this, but just to introduce how the instructions look like, I would want to go through this as well. Discuss how logically convincing you find this argument. This is going to be after an argument that would be mentioned on top. Like we looked at the prompt, so we found out that there was an argument on the top. In your discussion, you should analyze the argument's line of reasoning and use of evidence. It may be inappropriate in your critique to call into question certain assumptions underlying the argument or to indicate what evidence might weaken or strengthen the argument. It may also be appropriate to discuss how you would alter the argument to make it more convincing, or discuss what additional evidence, if any, would aid in evaluating the argument. Now, I have already talked about this, but just to signify its importance, I would want to repeat it. That is that you are critiquing the argument, of course, and you are going to quote whatever evidence is there. However, sometimes that evidence is not enough. Even if the author has felt that this is the supporting evidence and this might convince the reader to believe what exactly the point the author is trying to make. But still, it's very important to remember that sometimes the supporting evidence is not making sense at all. Or maybe there is a missing, I would say, a missing block somewhere. That is what you need to look for. That is what you need to quote. As a critical thinker, as a person who's looking at the prompt as a reader, as a third person, you have to make sure that you are evaluating it in a proper manner, and you are looking for the kind of evidence that would have, convinced you to believe in the argument. So please make sure you quote whatever you think could have made it better, which is why I say look for the shortcomings, look for the strengths, look for the weaknesses. So remember these keywords and focus on them. All right, moving on to the next tip. Tip number 2, develop a clear structure. Whatever it is, in English language, of course, you are expected whenever you're writing a piece of essay, or even when you're writing your thoughts, or you're just randomly writing a blog or something, a structure is very important. You cannot just flip-flop between your thoughts, and you cannot come up with ideas that are written in a vague manner. Your sentences have to be succinct, they have to be properly structured, and there should be no I would say vagueness. Mostly sometimes we tend to jabber, and we don't know what exactly the point that we're trying to make, and it becomes all gibberish. So please try to avoid that, and make sure you're writing in the context of the prompt that's given, the argument that's there, and you develop a structure. So do not beat around the bush. Instead, stick to the argument, the context of the argument. So you should have an introduction, first of all. An introductory paragraph introduces your argument, introduces the point made, and we'll also see how this gives a structure to the essay. Then 3 to 4 well-developed body paragraphs that further explain what are the shortcomings, the strengths of this particular argument. And then finally, we have the conclusion. The conclusion is actually the part where you are ending up your essay in a very logical manner. You're trying to make your point, you're trying to put your claim, you're trying to reiterate the point that you're making throughout the essay, and you might want to provide some counter claims, but however you have to make sure that in the end you emphasize the point that you think is, if you've chosen the point of view, if you think the argument is weak, then provide the evidence. Why do you think it's weak? The one strong thing that you felt was missing in this part of the argument. So that is what you need to do. Your introduction should restate the main argument of the prompt, then highlight the flaws in the argument that you will discuss in the body of the essay. Each of the body paragraphs should focus on a specific flaw in the argument. Let me give you a very simple example over here, just so the picture becomes more clearer. When we talk about an essay prompt, it could be about a business-related topic, it could be about a geographical topic, anything. It depends on what the topic is, the nature of the topic is. But most important thing is that you have to see the information that's provided. For example, if you get a prompt, an argument about global warming and driving a car. The author is trying to make a point that, global warming is increasing because of driving cars and because of fuel and pollution, but he's not providing enough evidence. Then that is where you note down that this author has not made a clear connection between global warming, the increase of global warming, with the driving of cars. So this is where you find out where the shortcoming is, and you point it out, and you are the one who's critiquing it, you're criticizing it. So yes, this is something that does not make sense. Why is he referring to the phenomenon of increasing global warming with the driving of cars? How do the two relate? So these two things need to have a connection. And if the author is providing sound evidence, in that case, yes, you might want to quote the strengths of the argument. However, if you think that there is not enough evidence and the two seem to be going in two different ways, they do not link up, then just share your thoughts about that. By sharing your thoughts, I do not mean your own opinion, but the argument, the thoughts mentioned by the author. What exactly is lacking over there? Mention that. All right. So this was tip 2. You have to have a clear structure of your essay. It's extremely important that you have an introduction, your body paragraphs that further discuss your essay, and then the conclusion. We'll be looking at a sample essay to further understand how the essay should look like. Tip number 3. Know the common analytical writing flaws. Now, this is very, very important, and I would want to stress on these 3 points. The first one is causality. Prompts often contain errors in causality, which means that they attribute the wrong effect to the wrong cause. This happens that, they are not able to explain the cause and effect relationship properly. So you might have to look for that, and you might have to point that out. Vagueness. Prompts often contain vague terms or statistics that are used incorrectly to draw conclusions. So maybe sometimes you come across prompts that contain vague terms or statistics that do not signify, that do not show the relationship among or between certain phenomena that are there, and they just jump to the conclusion without realizing the importance of making it clear for the reader to make a connection, to build up a connection between the two perspectives, between the two phenomena, right? Okay, overconfidence. Prompts often contain overconfident language, undoubtedly, definitely, and of course. So sometimes you might find these kind of words. These are the flaws that you need to look for, and you can point them out, and you could also talk about them when you're writing down your essay, because these are the things that make the argument weaker. So try to look for these. If you find them, you should avoid them. You should quote them. And when you're writing your own essay, you should avoid these. You should not draw conclusions unless you have enough supporting evidence to explain something. Tip number 4, skim through the passage and make an outline. While outlining may seem like one of the more basic essay tips, taking 5 minutes at the beginning of the analytical writing section to sketch out a basic outline of your essay, maybe just a point to remind yourself that this is what I want to mention in this body paragraph. Okay, my second body paragraph should be about this. My introduction should be about these things. So this is always a very good practice, and it helps you save your time. And if while writing you forget some point, at some point of time we are so stressed out because of the time lag that we just want to end the thing and we want to submit it. But the thing is that if you make an outline in the beginning, you will not forget the points that you have thought of, and you would not miss out on the most important details that would make your essay good for your essay that deserves a good score. So maybe you should not miss out on your outline. It's always a helpful practice if you make an outline. Everyone outlines differently, but in general, consider having 1 to 2 bullet points for each paragraph that highlight the main ideas the paragraph will cover. This is also a very good practice. People have their own ways of making an outline. Sometimes people want to highlight details, sometimes they want to make summaries, write the key points, and sometimes, like I already mentioned above, you can make 1 or 2 bullet points for each paragraph to highlight the main ideas the paragraph will cover. Exactly the same thing like I explained. It will save you from trouble. Trust me, those 3 to 4 minutes of making an outline might save you when you're going to be left with the last 5 minutes of your essay or the last 10 minutes and you're just rushing towards the end. So those points will actually, sometimes you are out of words. So looking back at the outline would remind you of something that would add value to your essay. So please make sure you make your outline. Outlining will help you make sure you've covered all the main points. You need to fully answer the question. Yes. So, like I said, you need to cover all the important details that you have come across as you evaluate the argument. So please make sure you note them down. You do not have to forget them towards the end of those 30 minutes, and you would not want to miss out on anything. So the best way to go about it is to make an outline. So that was tip 4. Tip 5. This is something that is certainly not new for you, and I cannot stress enough on the importance of practice. One of the best essay tips is to practice, practice, practice before you actually complete the analytical writing section on the test day. Because nothing comes easy when it comes to standardized tests and the different sections that they have. You cannot take the risk of just going unprepared on the day of the test or sitting in front of the computer wondering what is going to be the next thing that I have to do. So the best strategy is to practice well before time, so that you have an idea and there are no surprises on the day of the test. And I would highly appreciate if you could practice for both the GMAT, GRE, analyzing an argument and analyzing an issue task. You should be practicing them as much as possible to be a critical thinker, first of all, and to reason effectively, and to develop that sense of looking at an argument as someone who knows that, okay, if this is what the author is saying, maybe he needs to add something over here. So these little things will make a lot of difference, and you will become a good reader also, because when you will be able to analyze an argument, you will develop those skills that are required to interpret information, to critique something. So these are important things, and you can also question assumptions based on what are their shortcomings and all of that. So please make sure you practice well enough. This is always going to be the best of all the things that you can do. All right. So the next thing that we would be looking at is the GRE writing additional essay. Now, this is going to be specifically for those who are planning to go for the GRE test. And the essay section, as you know, that even if you're sitting at home and you're going to give your GMAT GRE essay, the GMAT students will not have an essay section on the day of the test, but the GRE students will have to attempt it. So the essay section is there in the GRE test, but if you're giving the test from home because of the COVID situation, then you won't have the test in the GMAT, the essay section, the analytical writing section in the GMAT test, but for GRE, it's going to be there. Which is why now I would really want to bring your attention to the additional essay tasks. The analyze an issue task, which is a 30-minute extra task that is there in the GRE writing section. And it's slightly different from the analyzing an argument section, but we have to get our hands on what exactly are the instructions for it, what is the kind of argument that is going to be there in the prompt. So let's look at the details. All right, GRE. Writing additional essay. For analytical writing on the GRE, you'll have to write 2 essays, analyze an argument and analyze an issue, as already mentioned. You'll have 30 minutes to write each essay, so you have an hour for both of them. For analyze an issue task, you're given an issue and you will need to explain your own stance on it and justify that stance with evidence. So now this is something different. You are given an issue and you will be explaining your own perspective, your own opinion on that. So this is what makes it different from the analyzing an argument task. Here you're going to give your own opinion. Okay, so let's look at the next slide and find out what do we have. Yes, additional essay sample prompts. Now these are things that we would be reading these out, and they would actually explain what exactly is the additional essay, the analyze an issue task all about. And if you are giving your own opinion, then what sort of opinion is required of you to write down? Let's look at the first prompt. I'm going to read it out for you. To understand the most important characteristics of a society, one must study its major cities. Write a response in which you discuss the extent to which you agree or disagree with the statement and explain your reasoning for the position you take. In developing and supporting your position, you should consider ways in which the statement might or might not hold true and explain how these considerations shape your position. So the first thing that was mentioned in this prompt is that you have to write a response in which you explain that to what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement that is mentioned above, the mentioned in the prompt. You have to explain the reason for the side that you're taking. If you are in favor of the topic, then explain why so. If you're against it, explain the reason behind it. So when you're developing your position, you should consider ways in which this statement might or might not hold true and explain how these considerations shape your position. So towards the end of the day, this additional essay is all about your opinion. What exactly is it that makes you think in the direction in which you're going to go? So this is what your additional essay is all about. This task is all about, and you have to explain why the statement is not true or why is it true. So your reason, your opinion, your perspective, and your ideas. Here is another prompt. Claim. Governments must ensure that their major cities receive the financial support they need in order to thrive. Now, once again, this is a claim that's made, and the reason is it is primarily in cities that a nation's cultural traditions are preserved and generated. So once again, do you think that this reason is good enough to support the claim? Do you think it's going to help you develop your own opinion effectively? And if you're in support of it, or if you think otherwise, mention that. Write your own opinion. So write a response in which you discuss the extent to which you agree or disagree with the claim and the reason on which that claim is based. So yes, you have to explain if you agree or disagree with the claim above, and you have to mention the reason on which that claim is based. So that's how your additional essay sample prompt looks like. And I've given you two examples just so you know what exactly is going to be there on the day of the test, and you can, make up your mind as to how you're going to structure your additional essay, the analyze an issue writing. Okay, now before I move on, once again, there are some very helpful, there are some very useful strategies that I'm going to share for additional essay analyzing an issue. These are going to help you. One thing that I would want you to remember is that since it's a different task, it has a different nature as compared to the analyzing an argument essay. So of course, the tips are going to be slightly different, and some of them are going to be, really different from the analyzing an argument task. So take down note of these tips. Remember that this analyze an issue task is for the GRE analytical writing section. So remember this as well. And let's look at the first tip and find out what is it that we can do to ace this section. Tip number 1, write at least 3 practice essays. This number 3, you can write more also, but it's really helpful if you could write at least 3 practice essays. The first one might lack something, and then you can improve on it. The second version of your analyzing an issue task might be even better than the first one. And then the third one would definitely be the perfect version. So in that case, of course, you're going to practice, you're going to revise your essay, you're going to make changes, you're going to edit, cut, and the details, add more to it. So these things will definitely refine your skills to write and analyzing an issue essay. So please make sure that you're taking care of the fact that you have to practice well enough. It's not like that ये अगर second essay है, so we are not supposed to practice क्योंकि एक तो मेरा अच्छा हो जाएगा तो दूसरा चलो कोई बात नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. You have to practice well and you have to make sure कि आपके दोनों essays अच्छे हो, because you never know कि at that point of time when you're doing your test, maybe you're running out of time, maybe you are tired or you're stressed out. So दोनों की इस तरह से प्रैक्टिस होनी चाहिए कि आप दोनों को जितना अच्छे तरीके से कर सकते हो उतना करो. सारी इंस्ट्रक्शंस को अपने माइंड में रखो एंड सारी गाइडलाइंस जो आपके साथ इस वक्त शेयर की जा रही हैं उनको ऑन द डे ऑफ द टेस्ट you should be incorporating them in your essay when you're going to actually attempt that section. So practice makes perfect. You can study for the GRE online by looking up the analytical writing prompts and practicing writing several of them within the 30-minute guideline. So वही वाली बात, set up test-like conditions and look at the prompts. The more you read the prompts, I know people would just want to read out the prompts and they would say, "Acha, I can do this. This is easy. This seems to be easy." But when it comes to actually writing down the essay, it's a completely different zone in which you are, and it doesn't. It's not as easy as it sounds or as easy as it seems. It is different. It is difficult. It is challenging. Considering the time that's given to us, we have to make sure that we practice. The only way to get comfortable with the time constraints is to practice them. So set up test-like conditions and get to work. Put a clock in front of yourself, set up alarms, and like I said, make sure that you are in that zone, in an environment where you feel like you're actually attempting the test. I know this sounds dramatic, but at the same time, this is what you are expected to do, because at this point of time, when you're preparing for the graduate program and you're aiming for university graduate programs, you are preparing yourself for the bigger challenges in life, and nothing is going to come easy. So please make sure that you do not take things for granted. They are mentioned for a reason, and they come from the practice of experienced candidates. So it's always a good idea to practice well enough when you're going to give your test, before you're going to give your test. All right. So after practice comes the next tip. Tip number 2, don't waffle. Choose one side of the issue only, and don't try to have it both ways. Even if you don't believe in the side you choose, you will only have time to argue one side effectively. Now, this is something that I would want to mention, as it's a very crucial point of your analyzing an issue task, that you do not change your sides in the body paragraphs. You do not change your side in the conclusion paragraph. You stick to one side and you remain on your stance. You're not supposed to flip-flop between sides, because if you disagree, then write in that context. If you agree to the claim, write in that context. Do not switch your sides, and don't try to have it both ways. You believe in something, so write about that. And sometimes maybe you do not believe in something, but you have more points to support that particular side of the argument. So maybe you could write on that. Sometimes, we do not believe in things, but we have to write that we believe in them, because the supporting evidence gives the feel that the information is credible. And sometimes we believe in something, but we have to disagree with it because of the evidence that's given. Maybe it's making more sense, and maybe your observation or your perception about something is wrong. So it's all on you. The information, the content that you're going to be writing in your essay, it's all your decision which side do you want to choose. But make up your mind, be very clear in your mind that which side can you pick up, so that you could write in a better way, in an effective way about it. Okay, if you take a middle of the road approach, you won't sound as confident or clear. Well, obviously, because if you're going to be somewhere, in the middle and you are sticking on both sides, okay, I feel that although this is right, but maybe this is also right. No, it doesn't happen like that. You will be confused. You won't be confident. The entire structure of the essay, it's going to be completely incoherent, and it's going to go nowhere, and you're going to be lost towards the end of the essay. Maybe you won't even have to write a conclusion, because you won't have an idea how to draw your conclusion, because obviously you'll be lost. So stick to one side. That's a very important thing. Remember, according to ETS, the readers are evaluating the skill with which you address the specific instructions and articulate and develop an argument to support your evaluation of the issue. So they are looking at the skill with which you address the specific instructions and develop an argument to support your evaluation of the issue. Your side that you've chosen, you are supporting that, and you are going to provide contradicting statements of the side that you do not believe in. So please make sure that you stick to one side. What exactly you say, what side you choose to defend, is less important than how you defend it. This is the reason why I mentioned that sometimes we do not believe in something, but because given the nature of the topic, sometimes we have more to write about the side on which we agree. So maybe we might want to disagree with the topic, but there is more to write about the side side with which we agree. So just do that, because at the end of the day, you are looking for a good score, and you want to set yourself at an advantage. So please make sure that the side you choose is your forte, and you're going to provide strong evidence regarding it. So what you say is not as important as how you say it or how you write. What you write is not as important as how you write. So keep this in mind. So once again, stick to one side. That is tip 2. Tip number 3, choose very specific real world examples. And yes, don't be general. Every reader would like to see more specific examples. Mitt Romney, The War of 1812, Keynesian economic theory, an anecdote about your Uncle Rolf, the compulsive gambler, etc. Yes, so your examples should be specific real world examples. And don't be very general, because that is just going to show lack of information from your side. You can have some fun with it, and your examples don't have to be the most scholarly. So don't make it to sound like it's a very, something very serious. What are you an expert on? Okay, now let me give you an example of how you can give examples to support your point of view. You can provide a reference. You can write down a personal anecdote, something that you experienced in your life regarding the claim that you're making. You can perhaps write down a statistic. You can use ethos, pathos, logos, these kind of persuasive elements. Either way, you are trying to make your own stance clear and more credible. So in that case, the reference that you're going to provide has to be very powerful. So what are you good at? Are you good at quoting statistics? Are you good at quoting research-based information, giving a reference perhaps of art, of history, of culture, anything? So it's up to you how you want to quote that specific example to support your point of view, whether you agree or disagree. Tip number 4, however, make sure your examples are relevant to the topic. Yes. So please do not get lost while you are quoting a personal anecdote. Kabhi emotional ho ke we get carried away and we try to make it longer, but remember, we have a very short time to write down our essay. So even if we are quoting a personal anecdote related to the topic, it has to make sense. It should be in the context of the topic. It should be very, very well connected with the argument, with the point of view, with the stance that we have, and it should not go off the track. So please avoid that. You can absolutely choose examples from a wide range of subjects: personal experience, pop culture, history, sports, literature, current events, politics, etc. So you can quote any of the evidence that you have read ever in your life regarding the topic from any of these subject areas. It's up to you. Whatever you think is credible or would convince the person who's going to read your essay. But make sure you explain how your example clearly supports your thesis. At the end of the day, you are trying to support your stance. So please make sure whatever examples you're quoting, first of all, they are relevant. And second of all, they are making the point clearer, whether you agree or you disagree with the topic. So that was tip number 4. Tip number 5, avoid first person and self reference. Once again, because, although it's about your opinion, but you need to avoid the first person narrative in your essay. I think and I believe are obvious. Basically, you are giving your own opinion, but these kind of phrases where you're using the first person narrative should be avoided. You are the person writing this essay. First person pronouns should only appear in a body paragraph if you're using a personal experience or a personal anecdote as an example and telling a story from your own life to support your thesis. So please make sure that you avoid first person and self-reference only unless you are quoting a personal experience or a personal anecdote. Then you can use this is what happened to me, and sentences like these, I, me, my, the pronouns. But otherwise, you should not be using them throughout the essay. Write as a general reader's perspective. Never use I in your introductory or concluding paragraph. Another important tip: please avoid this first person narrative in your paragraphs, specifically your introductory and concluding paragraphs. And this is for the analyzing an issue task where you're giving your own opinion. Still, you have to avoid the first person narrative. Tip number 6, make strong declarative statements. Look for ways to add charged adjectives, adverbs, and because clauses to make your sentences sound more confident. So if you're saying something, prove it with the help of the words that you're going to use. Maybe use transition words, adjectives that add more beauty to your writing, that make more sense of your point of view that you're trying to make. Use adverbs. So here is an example. The president shouldn't allow Congress to pass the law. This is a wrong example. So let's look at the next one. It is unacceptable for the president to permit Congress to pass the law because it is unconstitutionally overextends Congress powers. Now, this is the thing that we need to look at. Here in the first part, we are lacking evidence. In the second part, however, we have strong evidence to support the claim that we are making. So make strong declarative statements. Write in an emphatic manner where you believe in something, say it with the help of the evidence, of course, and use words to make your writing more organized, more fluent and coherent when the reader reads it. The examiner reads it, sorry. Okay, tip number 7, refute the opposing view in your conclusion. Yes, many GRE students wonder what to do in their conclusion. Try introducing the opposing viewpoint, what was stated in the argument originally, showing that you recognize that, in fact, some people do not support your position. Of course, not everybody is going to agree with you, but still you will try your best. Then refute their argument in 1 to 2 sentences, contradict it, go against it, and reinforce the validity of your own thesis. Once again, make the reader, as a closing statement, make the reader believe in what you said. That has to be your conclusion, the ideal conclusion that is supposed to be there for your analyzing an issue task. Finally, we have the sample prompt of analyzing an argument writing task, and then we'll be having the Q&A session towards the end, where I'll be taking your questions and I'll be answering them. In surveys, Mason City residents rank water sports, swimming, boating, and fishing among their favorite recreational activities. The Mason River flowing through the city is rarely used for these pursuits. However, and the City Park Department devotes little of its budget to maintaining riverside recreational facilities. For years, there have been complaints from residents about the quality of the river's water and the river smell. In response, the state has recently announced plans to clean up the Mason River. Use of the river for water sports is therefore sure to increase. See, now there is overconfidence over here, is therefore sure to increase. Just giving you an idea, not that maybe you guys would, have a different point of view, but just giving you an idea how to point out little details. The city government should, for that reason, devote more money in this year's budget to riverside recreational facilities. Now, this last point suggests that the government should allocate a budget to improve the riverside recreational facilities. If you think the government should do that, why so? After reading the prompt, you must have taken out some sort of evidence. You must have some key points that you would want to think about, and if you think that this claim makes sense to you, if so, please explain, and if not, then please explain either way. Write a response in which you examine the stated or unstated assumptions of the argument. Be sure to explain how the argument depends on the assumptions and what the implications are if the assumptions prove unwarranted. So what are going to be the consequences if the assumptions that are made in the prompt do not make sense, if they are flawed? So this is what you have to do. You have to examine the stated or unstated assumptions of the argument, and you have to explain how the argument depends on the assumptions and what if they are not credible. All right, so this is the exemplary student response essay. I would want you to read it with me and pay attention to the paragraphs, to how it has been structured. While it may be true that the Mason City government ought to devote more money to riverside recreational facilities, this author's argument does not make a cogent case for increased resources based on river use. It is easy to understand why city residents would want a cleaner river. But this argument is rife with holes and assumptions and thus not strong enough to lead to increased funding. So in this introductory paragraph, the student has clearly made it a point that he does not believe in increasing the funds. Citing surveys of city residents, the author reports city residents' love of water sports. It is not clear, however, the scope and validity of that survey. So far, you can see that even if it's the student's response, his opinion, he has not used the first-person narrative, I, we, myself, or me. For example, the survey could have asked residents if they prefer using the river for water sports or would like to see a hydroelectric dam built, which may have swayed residents towards river sports. The sample may not have been representative of city residents, asking only those residents who live upon the river. So he's suggesting how that claim is dependent on this survey, but there is something missing in the survey. Maybe the survey could have been structured in a different way. So this is how he's referring to the shortcomings, and he's asking for improvements in it. The survey may have been 10 pages long with 2 questions dedicated to river sports. We just do not know. Unless the survey is fully representative, valid, and reliable, it cannot be used to effectively back the author's argument. So he's making it very clear that the survey was not valid. Additionally, the author implies that residents do not use the river for swimming, boating, and fishing, despite their professed interest, because the water is polluted and smelly. While a polluted, smelly river would likely cut down on river sports, a concrete connection between the residents' lack of river use and the river's current state is not effectively made. Though there have been complaints, we do not know if there have been numerous complaints from a wide range of people, or perhaps from 1 or 2 individuals who made numerous complaints. To strengthen his or her argument, the author would benefit from implementing a normative survey asking a wide range of residents why do they not currently use the river. So he's asking for a connection about using the river and about the pollution. Building upon about pollution and cleaning it up. Building upon the implication that residents do not use the river due to the quality of the river's water and the smell, the author suggests that a river cleanup will result in increased river usage if the river's water quality and smell result from problems which can be cleaned. This may be true. And towards the end, the last 2 paragraphs, for example, if the decreased water quality and aroma is caused by pollution by factories along the river, this conceivably could be remedied. There is a solution to this problem, but if the quality and aroma results from the natural mineral deposits in the water or surrounding rock, this may not be true. There are some bodies of water which emit a strong smell of sulfur due to the geography of the area. This is not something likely to be affected by a cleanup. Consequently, a river cleanup may have no impact upon river usage, regardless of whether the river's quality is able to be improved or not. The author does not effectively show a connection between water quality and river usage. This is the concluding paragraph. Please pay attention to it. A clean, beautiful, safe river often adds to a city's property values, leads to increased tourism and revenue from those who come to take advantage of the river, and a better overall quality of life for residents. So once again, he's giving the side that he does not believe in, but he's still giving evidence as to why it might be believable. And then he says, for these reasons, city government may decide to invest in improving riverside recreational facilities. However, this author's argument does not likely significantly persuade the city government to allocate increased funding. And that's about it. This is how you have to structure your your analytical writing response. Thank you so much. So now let's go to the question and answer session. We have Zainab with us, my colleague, and she's going to share the questions that I have received from all of you. Hi, Zainab.
Hi, Mavra. So we have a few questions here. The first question comes from Imad. Imad asks, unlike other conventional essay exams where you memorize material for the essay, what would you recommend for the GRE essay question?
Not that I would want you to memorize anything, because obviously, while they may ask you to write down some information based on the topic, for example, the essay that we have just read, there was a cities example, but if you read out the essay, you would find out that there was nothing that the student had to probably read about prior to the essay when he was preparing for it, because all of the information that came from the point that he was making, it was all general information with some specific examples related to the survey. However, there's not, the need of being aware of what's going around in the world. Yes, you should be reading, you should be practicing reading a lot of articles and, being aware of how you have to go about the essay. For that, you need to practice a lot of prompts. But in the case of having material to revise or something like that, anything to memorize, a big no to that in case of GRE. All you need to do is practice a variety of additional issue task prompts. That is what I would recommend, and that's the best way about it.
Great. So a question that sort of follows up on this is from Ali. He says that you recommend practice to be able to write good essays, but he says that without assessment, how will practice help them to achieve the required goal?
That's how that is a very good question, and I have a very I would say accurate explanation to this. Sometimes we do have sample prompts, and we have exemplary student responses, and we have the level of grading that is given out of from 0 to 6. What is the score that the student has achieved? And we look for the reasons. The examiner has also quoted information as to why the student received the score. So in that case, first of all, you practice your own essay for a particular prompt, and then you look at those responses that are shared, the exemplary student response, the response that did not score well, and see for yourself in which category do you fall, and then make improvements accordingly. I think this is the best approach to making sure that whatever you're practicing actually is fruitful and it's not wasting your time, and you're not just filling out pages for no reason. So the best way is to look for a prompt that has an exemplary student response. Of course, you're not going to open it before writing the essay on your own. First, write your own version and then check the best student response and compare the two.
Right. A couple of similar questions from Afshin and Hamza. They ask, what's the word limit on a GRE essay? How many words are we allowed to write for each task?
Okay, so keeping in mind that we have 30 minutes and we just looked at a sample essay, I would say that, the length should be somewhere between 200 to 300 words. It's not possible to write more than that. And sometimes 250 words is more than enough. You have to make your own point. So I think that's the ideal limit, between 200 to 300 words. Yes.
All right. Another question from Afshin. She asked, should we only stick to critical analysis, or is it possible to criticize the language components like ambiguity in language, etc.?
Yes, you can do that. Sometimes you might find vagueness in the language. Sometimes you think that the prompt has, a fact that's misquoted or misleading. So you can quote that sort of information. But of course, you need to suggest how you can improve it. So you can do that, but mostly the prompts, they do not have, you know, that those sort of things. They would just want you to critique the argument that's made in the passage, not the shortcomings related to grammar or anything. Usually that is not something that you need to pay attention to. It's just the general argument that you need to pay attention to, and then choose your side in case of an analyze an issue task. And for an analyzing an argument task, you need to evaluate the argument's shortcomings or strengths.
All right. Someone asked if you could quickly just share tip number 3 in the analytics section.
Okay, so I'll go back to tip number 3 for the analytical writing, the analyze an argument task, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so tip number 3 was know the common analytical writing flaws. This tip sometimes, this is about prompts, but this could also happen with your essays. Causality. Sometimes prompts have errors. They attribute the wrong effect to the wrong cause. The cause and effect relationship is not properly mentioned or is flawed. It does not make sense. So just as we read the essay, this exemplary student response following the essay, the Mason City example, that the river should be cleaned up so that, it could be used by the people who live around in the area. But the author is not able to provide a very valid connection between the kind of survey, the kind of information that is being given in the argument, and he's not able to tell if the need to clean the river is going to actually make the river more open for people to come and have water sports, or is it just going to add beauty to the city, or is it just a task that the government needs to do? But he was not able to point out that relationship. So causality in that case was there, and there was a flaw in causality, the cause and effect relationship. Next is vagueness. Prompts often contain vague terms or statistics that are used incorrectly to draw conclusions. Something that's not making a relation with the statistic, or maybe a statistic that is not in the context of the topic or the argument that is being discussed. So in that case, you could say that the relationship stated in the statistic, or the point stated in the statistic, does not relate with the argument that's actually there. So once again, there's a lack of relationship. And lastly, overconfidence. I gave you an example of overconfidence when we were reading out the Mason City prompt, and I said that the author is trying to be overconfident when he's saying that it is sure to increase when the river is going to be cleaned up, there will be more people. So, these kind of words. So this is tip number 3 for the argument, analyzing an argument task.
Great. Last question comes from Shehzad. He says he wants to improve his English writing skills. Do you have any tips to share for that?
The first tip that I would like to share is that in case of, if you're talking in context of GMAT and GRE, of course, there are so many ways to improve your vocabulary. The first way is that you should get yourself acquainted with the different kinds of subject areas, passages related to those. You could read, a blog that's related to maybe pop or culture or literature, anything. So get yourself familiarized with the different writing techniques that are there for different subject areas. So reading, that's the first thing. You can read anything. I mean, it could be a newspaper article, but just, get yourself used to the practice of reading. So this is also going to open your mind. You'll be able to question assumptions. You'll be able to improve your critical thinking skills. You'll be able to interpret information. And the next thing that you could do is also maybe get yourself acquainted to different ways of writing something. Use transition words, practice some vocabulary words. Do not revise vocabulary. Try to use it in your sentences that you speak every day. So these are some general things that you could do. Other than that, I would once again say that practice the essays that are there, and yes, go through them.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing these tips,
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so that's it.